Transmigrated into a cat in the home of a disabled antagonist, the system tasked me with redeeming him. He was despairingly hitting his disabled limbs, so I stretched out my paw and knocked over the milk. With his severe mysophobia, he had no choice but to pause his sorrow and rush over to mop the floor. He was staring lifelessly at the sleeping pills on the bedside table, so I messed up his figurine cabinet. He had to stop his obsessive thoughts and came over to straighten it out. After several attempts, he no longer wanted to die. Not only did he no longer want to die, but he also actively treated his leg. The first thing he did after standing up was to grab me and hang me online. Evil silver gradient, full of flaws, not for sale, just to make you jealous. By the time I crossed over, the villain was already crippled. The male and female leads were holding a grand wedding. He sat in his wheelchair like a rat in the gutter, watching the related news pop up on his phone. The author made him turn to the dark side, killed off the sister he relied on for survival, and then killed the only cat his sister left him. The cat died from a difficult birth, and I transmigrated into the only surviving kitten. So Brandon doesn't really like me. He only ensures that I stay alive and doesn't care about anything else. He neither plays with me nor pets me. Even a cat as adorable as me can't get him to pet me, which proves he's really hard to deal with. On the first day I crossed over, I walked back and forth in front of him more than a dozen times just to make my presence known. The look he gave me was as still as stagnant water. There was a hint of confusion mixed in. After all, this little cat had been frail and sickly since childhood, stayed in the cat bed almost the entire day without moving, never been as lively as I am now. Brandon maneuvered his wheelchair next to me, looking down at me expressionlessly from above. A final rally, not long to live. The moment you open your mouth, you say something so irritating. Angrily, I flexed the muscles in my face, making what I thought was a fierce expression. Unfortunately, I am a cat. Even when the kitten is angry, it still looks like it's acting cute. Brandon let out a light laugh when he saw my somewhat comical movements. You look just like your mom when you're angry, mentioning the kitten his sister had left behind. His eyes dimmed slightly. The room fell into an eerie silence once again, with only the sound of the clock ticking audible. After a long while, Brandon finally spoke again. I wonder if, after raising you like this, when I go to see your mother, she'll blame me. So, be a little nicer to me now. I called out to him a few times. He thought I was hungry. He took out a large bag of cat food from the storage room and poured it all into the bowl. I looked up at the pile of cat food that was taller than me, feeling a bit at a loss. People might think this is my last meal. After pouring it, he closed the door without looking back. Well, let's eat. First time being a cat, I haven't eaten cat food yet. I buried my head in eating, and just as I was almost done, the system popped up. Stop eating. I sent you to redeem the villain, not to actually become a cat. The villain is hitting his leg in self-loathing again. Now is the perfect time for you to go, full and satisfied. I lay in the fluffy cat bed and lazily replied. He closed the door. How am I supposed to get in? If the door is closed, just go open it. I rolled my eyes. With my current size, I couldn't reach the doorknob even if I jumped all day. Then what should we do? How should I know what to do? This is not something a little kitten should be thinking about. The system was crashing and chattering in my ear. I was so annoyed by it that I had to jump onto the table. There was a glass of milk on the table. I walked over openly, raised my paw, and gave it a gentle tap. It fell down. Milk spilled all over the floor, and glass shards scattered everywhere. I looked at my masterpiece with great satisfaction, silently counting in my heart. Sure enough, within a few seconds, Brandon came out of the room. He looked at the mess on the floor, and his expressionless face finally showed a crack. He was filled with rage. I looked at him with an innocent expression. He gripped the wheelchair handles, veins bulging. For someone with severe mysophobia like him, this was worse than death. Are you trying to rebel? He yelled at me and turned to get a mop from the bathroom. While he was getting the mop, I jumped off the table, and all four paws landed in the milk. Brandon came out with the mop, and the floor and sofa were already a mess. It was all covered with the milk prints I had stepped in. He looked at me, and the hand holding the mop was trembling. Get down here right now. Immediately. I licked my fur without a care in the world. I completely ignored his words. Even someone with all four limbs intact might not be able to catch me, let alone him in a wheelchair. Looking at the messy room, I nodded with satisfaction and returned to my own little nest. Thanks to me, Brandon spent the whole afternoon cleaning and had no time to complain about his amputated limb. After finishing the work, he was so tired that he fell asleep directly on the sofa. The system was completely taken by surprise. Wow, amazing, you actually cured the villain's insomnia just like that. I ignored it and jumped into Brandon's arms. He hadn't been disabled for long, and his figure was still in great shape. I poked his abs with my paw, then closed my eyes contentedly. When I opened my eyes again, Brandon was looking at me with a half-smile. First, you mess up the house. Then you sleep on me. Are you getting back at me? He grabbed the back of my head and lifted me up. I flailed my paws vigorously in the air. Brandon saw my movements and slowly spoke. You came to me on your own. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to catch you. After saying that, he glanced down at his own legs and let out a self-mocking smile. The liveliness he had just shown vanished, and he sank back into self-loathing. He set me down and maneuvered his wheelchair into the room. So moody, I meowed at his retreating figure. I slipped through the crack in the door before he could close it. He glanced at me indifferently. Then his gaze remained fixed on the sleeping pills by the bedside. Got it. A day's work wasted. I jumped onto the bed with a heart full of despair. Brandon immediately turned his head to look at me. Don't lie on the bed. I was so startled. By the time I realized what was happening, Brandon had already dragged me off the bed. There's still hope, clearly, compared to dying. He still couldn't stand the thought of his house being dirted. He held me tightly in his arms. His chest muscles were pressing down on me so hard I could barely breathe. Brandon came to the bedside and picked up the sleeping pills. Just as he was about to take them, I finally broke free from his embrace. I leaped onto his cabinet in one swift motion. Inside were the figurines he had collected before. Brandon held the sleeping pills and warned me with a look. If you dare knock them down, you're done for. I turned a deaf ear, lifted a paw and shifted all the figurines slightly. The once pleasingly arranged figurines were instantly thrown into disarray. Brandon was going crazy, obsessive-compulsive disorder in full swing. He put down the sleeping pills and angrily pulled me off the shelf. He looked completely frantic. He carefully adjusted the position of each figurine. I was very comfortable nestled in his arms. This is exactly the effect I wanted. As long as it doesn't kill me. Brandon was staring intently at the cabinet, completely unaware that I had quietly slipped out of his arms. I fiddled with the bottle of sleeping pills with my paw and finally hid it in a very secretive corner. After the great success, I lay in bed watching Brandon bustling about, busy. It's good to be busy. When he finally placed the last figurine in position, he finally remembered the unfinished task from earlier. He turned to look at the bedside table, only to find that the sleeping pills had vanished without a trace. The culprit. I looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Funny, I'm just a little kitten. What could I possibly know? Brandon twitched the corner of his mouth and, for once, didn't make me get out of bed. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching helplessly as he pulled open the drawer of the bedside table. Inside the drawer were dozens of bottles of sleeping pills. How can this be saved? I wish I could rush over and bite him right now. Brandon turned to look at me, a hint of barely noticeable pride in his eyes. I turned my head away, refusing to look at him. He looked at me, his tone laced with a teasing smile. Want me to stop eating? I was not moved. Sure. My eyes lit up as I turned to look at him. Brandon looked at me and said with a smile, if you do a backflip, I won't eat it. Is this even human language? I am a cat, not some acrobat. I turned my head away, speechless. Brandon seemed to read my mind, picked up the phone that was set aside, fiddled with it for a moment, and handed it to me to see. In the video, a tabby cat performed a highly difficult backflip. Me, staged. If that little cat can do it, why can't you? What's wrong with this guy? Trying to push his parenting obsession onto me. He ignores me every day, yet expects me to perform a backflip for him. I think he's the one who looks like a backflip. Brandon was amused by my reaction and, for the first time, reached out to pat my head. He rubbed it a few times with force, feeling somewhat disgusted. Just like your mom, the texture isn't good. No, who told him to touch it? He could poison himself just by licking his lips. I don't need to take sleeping pills at all anymore. I bared my teeth and snarled at him. He patted me and started to see the guest out. All right, I won't take it today. Go out and get some sleep. I lay on the bed without moving. It's just that his mattress is too soft, a world of difference from the hard one I used to sleep on. Seeing that I hadn't moved, Brandon's tone grew more serious. Don't push your luck. I didn't even give him a glance. Tisk, I'll count to 3. I lifted my eyes and looked at him pitifully. Cuteness won't work either. Meow? I said cuteness won't work. Meow meow. Brandon gave in and said stubbornly, just for tonight. Once it happens once, it'll happen again, and once it happens again, it'll happen a third time. In no time, this bed will be my little kitty's domain. I lay contentedly at the edge of the bed, my gaze following Brandon. He took off his coat and approached the bed, but as he was about to get in, he met my eyes. He commanded in a low voice, "Turn around." I froze for a second, then buried my head under the covers. A rustling sound of clothes rubbing together and heavy breathing came from the room. After more than 10 minutes, the sounds gradually faded away. When I looked up again, Brandon had already gotten into bed. He still had that expressionless, indifferent look on his face, but there was a drop of sweat hanging on his forehead. No one knew what strange posture he had used to struggle his way onto the bed. My heart stirred slightly, and I ran over, leaning my whole body against his arm. He chuckled softly. "I've never seen you this clingy before." I nuzzled my head against his palm. Not gonna lie, it felt pretty comfortable. In the following days, as soon as it was time to sleep, I would run to Brandon's bed. Then, when he came up, I would find a comfortable spot on him to curl up and sleep. Brandon would pretend to refuse the first few times. Later, he just got used to it, although he still had that look as if someone owed him money, but he no longer made a fuss about dying or living. The only downside is that he still doesn't seem to understand how much a kitten of my size and age should actually eat. After he poured me a mountain of cat food once again, I couldn't help but protest. Brandon patted me and said bluntly, "You're welcome, eat up." Who's thanking him? I'm truly grateful. I was so anxious that I called out a few more times. For the first time, I hated myself for not being able to speak. Brandon completely misunderstood what I meant. I said no need to thank me. Just eat in peace. Never mind, I can't get through to humans. I dove headfirst into the mountain of cat food and started eating. Brandon watched the cats eating show up close, still talking non-stop. "You look so small, but you sure can eat." I just went to take a look in the storage room, and there are only a few bags of cat food left. I turned my head to look at him in disbelief. Does he even hear what he's saying? Did I build this mountain of cat food in front of me? Can this blame still be pinned on me? The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Yet, aside from meowing, it can do nothing else. I sighed, took a few bites, and then lay down in the cat bed. I lay there for the entire afternoon. In the evening, I stubbornly refused to go find Brandon, but he came to me. Brandon pretended to be in a wheelchair and came out to pour himself a glass of water. Yet his gaze kept subtly drifting toward me. He looked at me with a water cup in his hand and said casually, "Why aren't you coming to sleep?" I ignored him. He came over to my side and scooped me up from the cat bed. "Why aren't you saying anything? You wouldn't be happy even if I did say something." He didn't expect me to respond to him and kept talking to himself. "Could it be that you're angry because I said you eat a lot at noon?" Brandon chuckled softly. "You really hold a grudge." "Huh, I do hold grudges." So even though I slept in his bed, I didn't lean against him to sleep anymore. Although the bed really wasn't as comfortable as his muscles, Brandon saw me keeping a great distance from him and laughed for several minutes. After laughing, he reached out and pulled me to his side. My anger instantly vanished, not because I had forgiven him, but because he had finally been tamed into the shape I desired. I always said training him was easier than training a dog. At first, he wouldn't let me on the bed. Now he can't do without me. I was just about to get into a more comfortable sleeping position, but Brandon's phone kept ringing. He opened it and took a look. It was an unfamiliar number. Sent him a few text messages. "Stop being stubborn, apologize to Simon and come back. You can't even walk on your legs now. How are you going to survive out there alone? As long as you change your attitude and go along with Simon. He won't do anything to you out of respect for me." Brandon showed no change in expression upon reading these words and, without hesitation, blocked the number. Turning to meet my gaze, he raised his hand to cover my eyes. "Don't look at this, little kitten. It's disgusting." I know even if he doesn't say it. Simon, his half-brother, that is, the male lead of this book. Brandon's villainous life is somewhat cliched. Their biological father abandoned the mother and her 2 children for money and power, marrying into a wealthy local family. The mother passed away not long after. He and his older sister relied on each other for survival, but she was also indirectly killed by someone. In the end, he turned dark and began targeting Simon. Not surprisingly, it failed. Not only did it fail, but I also got into a car accident and broke my leg. The ridiculous part is that the reason I traveled here to save him was because he committed suicide, but in the novel's world, he was originally supposed to be disabled for life and die alone, so he must live on, no matter how painful, how much he struggles. He must live on. I feel the warmth from Brandon's palm. He certainly has to live on. Not only must he live on, but he must live beautifully. Brandon didn't seem at all affected by those text messages. His daily activities remained the same as usual. Eat a little something, and then let me eat a mountain. Not only that, he gradually developed a taste for life. He fell in love with buying flowers and plants. Looking at the flowers all over the room, I almost suspected he had moved the flower shop home. My gaze lingered on the lilies arranged in the vase. Brandon noticed and took one, thrusting it right in front of me. Do you like this? I shook my head slightly. I used to really like it. Now I don't like it anymore. And I even find it a bit annoying. I jumped onto the table, walked over to the rose, and sniffed it with my nose. Brandon's gaze followed me, and when he saw my little action, the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. So you like roses? He picked up a bouquet of roses and placed it next to my cat bed. He even put one in my food bowl. Brandon nodded with great satisfaction at his masterpiece. I'm quite satisfied as well. Who wouldn't say it's elegant after seeing it? Brandon spent the whole day organizing the plants and flowers he brought home, transformed from a gloomy, cold style to a warm, garden-like atmosphere. After he finished tidying up, someone rang the doorbell. I followed behind him to open the door. After the door opened, it was a face that somewhat resembled his. It's Simon. He looked down at Brandon sitting in the wheelchair and spoke in a calm tone. Aren't you going to invite me in? Brandon maneuvered his wheelchair to make way for him. After entering the room, a flicker of surprise crossed Simon's face. Then he let out a scoff. You've got quite the taste. Before he came, he must have imagined what kind of life Brandon was living. Perhaps it was one of dejection and gloom, or maybe it was one of utter decadence. But it's definitely not as lively as it is now. Simon glanced around and fixed his gaze on me. Oh, you've got a cat now. He crouched down and roughly patted my head with his hand. Then he sat down on the sofa without any hesitation. Brandon picked me up from the ground and smoothed my ruffled fur with his hand. If you're here to kick me while I'm down, you can leave now. Simon was used to his cold and sarcastic demeanor. What are you talking about? I'm not that kind of person, right, bro? A shout sent a chill down Brandon's spine. He frowned and said sternly, Don't call me that. Simon smiled. I just found out he sent you those text messages. He was probably referring to their father. You know, he's not a good person, he said, pulling a business card and a bank card out of his pocket. A renowned domestic expert says your leg can still be saved. Brandon let out a somewhat sarcastic laugh. Simon, are you overflowing with a savior complex? I've given you a hard time more than once before. Is that directed at? Simon raised an eyebrow. Isn't that just normal business competition? It's just that you weren't as skilled as me and lost, that's all. After he finished speaking, Brandon's face darkened even more. Simon seemed to enjoy watching him suffer. His smile widened as he stood up, ready to leave. That old fool won't be sending you any more messages. I'll have him sent abroad tomorrow. I'm heading off first. My wife is waiting for me to come home for dinner. Simon walked over to me and patted me again. Goodbye, little kitten. After Simon left, the room suddenly felt much quieter. Brandon hates his father, and Simon does too. After their scumbag father married into the family, he pretended to behave himself on the surface but was secretly still cheating. Simon grew up amidst his parents' endless arguments. He witnessed his father's infidelity with his own eyes when he was just 5 years old. Because of this, his mother had a big fight with his father. From that day on, the marriage existed in name only. They each went their own way, even bringing others into their home. In a way, they shouldn't be enemies but rather have a common enemy. But the author enjoys the drama of brothers turning against each other, forcing the two of them to fight to the death. In the end, the winner feels no joy, and the loser feels no satisfaction. Brandon glanced at the business card and bank card on the table, picked them up, examined them for a few seconds, and then threw them into the trash can. Can't throw it away. I leaped out of his arms in one swift motion and dove into the trash can, using both paws. I dug vigorously and finally pulled them out with my mouth. Brandon's mouth twitched. I walked towards him with the card in my mouth. He took a panicked step backward. Stay away from me for now. I was completely baffled, until I saw him put on gloves. No love anymore. He started to dislike me after I dug through the trash once. Brandon disinfected the bank card with an alcohol wipe, then carried me to the bathroom. I was scrubbed clean from the inside out. It felt like a layer of skin was almost scrubbed off. There's nothing to say to someone with such severe OCD. I seriously suspect the only reason he's still alive is that he hasn't thought of a dignified and tidy way to die. Brandon dried me off and put me on the bed. I jumped to the head of the bed and pointed at the expert's business card with my paw. "You want me to get treated?" I let out a bark in response to him. He laughed and tapped my forehead with his finger. "You're just a little kitten. What do you know about disability?" That's right, the little kitten doesn't know, but I know. Brandon will never know. In another world, I am just like him, with a broken leg, sitting in a wheelchair. I am disabled. From the moment I first saw Brandon, I knew why the system chose me. I was never just doing it for him, but for myself as well. In my original world, I was no different from him. I hated the heavens, the earth, and the unfairness of fate every day. The moment I opened my eyes and saw my legs, I felt a sense of powerlessness that radiated from within. The reason I could tolerate Brandon's bad temper, because I am just like him. After breaking his leg, he became moody, complaining about fate and abandoning himself to despair. I also clearly understand why he threw away that business card. Without hope, there is no disappointment. I always see my own reflection in him, so I want him to get better. I want him to prove to me that we can overcome this hurdle. Brandon stared blankly at the business card. A faint glimmer of stars lit up in the eyes. The next day, when I woke up, Brandon was already up. I walked out of the room and found an uninvited guest in the house. He was sitting on the sofa. Brandon's expression doesn't look good. It seems like he's suppressing his anger. The person sitting on the sofa saw me and asked, "Is this the kitten that Cha-Cha gave birth to?" Cha-Cha is the kitten left by his sister, which is my mom. Brandon's tone was filled with undisguised disgust. "This has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with him." The person seemed to have heard something laughable. "Don't forget, Cha-Cha is the cat that Tina and I raised. Tina is Brandon's sister." I finally found out who this man is. Harry, the boyfriend of Brandon's deceased sister. Also one of the people indirectly responsible for her death. I jumped onto Brandon, and he caught me. Sounding a bit impatient, "Don't forget, she left Cha-Cha with me, left with you, so you let it die." It seemed he came today just to say that, his eyes full of provocation. I have never seen Brandon like this. He has always maintained an indifferent attitude toward the world, as if he has no emotions, but at this moment, I can feel the anger emanating from the depths of his heart. He looked up and stared directly at Harry, his words dripping with sarcasm. "What the hell gives you the right to say that? Didn't you indirectly cause my sister's death? Why are you pretending to be so affectionate after she's already dead?" This is too blunt, so blunt that even Brandon himself took a moment to recover after saying it. Harry lost the air of superiority he had just moments ago. His voice dropped a notch. "No matter what, this cat is all she has left. If you can't take care of it, let me take it back. Please don't. I'm no ordinary cat. I have a strong sense of self-discipline. I don't want to be taken back by a man who doesn't cherish life while alive but cries at the grave every day after death, just to feel disgusted." Brandon's hand on me paused, as if he was seriously considering the proposal. I quickly snuggled into his arms, afraid that he might not come to his senses and mistakenly decide to send me away. "It doesn't want to go with you, so you might as well give up." Brandon's patience was running out, and he began to see the guest out. "It's just a cat. It'll warm up to you once you take care of it. What does it matter if it's willing or not?" I couldn't hold back any longer and lunged at Harry. Before he could react, I had already bitten his hand. Harry winced in pain and tried to shake me off. I quickly jumped back onto Brandon. Brandon, who had been in a low mood since I came out, finally showed a hint of a smile on his face. He pinched my cheek. "Don't bite people so casually next time." What if that person had rabies? Harry gritted his teeth, covering the wound, and looked at the two of us, unable to voice his grievances. "Harry, don't come again. You know I've never welcomed you." Brandon maneuvered his wheelchair back a few steps, signaling for him to leave. Harry walked out the door with a very unpleasant expression on his face. Brandon took a tissue and wiped my mouth for me. "Don't bite next time. It's disgusting." Brandon's calm demeanor in front of Harry was 80% an act. After Harry left, he locked himself in the study. He stayed locked in there the entire afternoon. Eventually, even the system, which had been offline for ages, anxiously popped up. "Hurry up and think of something. What if he dies in there?" "He won't die. He bought so many bottles of sleeping pills. If he really wanted to die, he could just swallow a handful, even though he says he doesn't want to live. His subconscious actions are always crying out for help, always seeking attention, always craving love. it doesn't matter whose love it is, even a cat's affection would be treasured by him, but I still walked to the study. I couldn't get in, so I called out softly and continuously from outside. After calling for more than 10 minutes, Brandon opened the door. His eyes were slightly red, as if he had been crying, receiving my gaze. He turned his head away, trying to cover it up. It's so loud. The whole building can hear it. I ignored his stubbornness and walked into the study. In the center of the study, a photo hung on the wall. The person in the photo is smiling while holding a small cat. Her smile resembles Brandon's. Although I haven't seen Brandon smile much, Brandon and I looked up at the photo side by side. The cat in the photo is your mother, named Cha-Cha. The one holding her is your mother's mother, named Tina. When Brandon spoke of them, his tone unconsciously softened. As if nothing had ever changed. I still have a mother, and he still has a sister. He's actually right. Brandon broke the silence. I can't take good care of you, just like I didn't take good care of Cha-Cha. When I go downstairs, your mom and my sister will definitely scold me. It had started to drizzle outside the window at some point. The strong wind rattled the windows. The pitter-patter sounded like a death march. Brandon suddenly turned pale and lowered his head, looking very uncomfortable. I know. It's his broken leg that's throbbing with a dull pain. I walked over to him and licked the wound on his leg with my tongue. Brandon lowered his head, his disheveled hair falling over his forehead, and beads of cold sweat formed on his brow from the pain. He stiffened all over because of my action. A ripple stirred in his eyes. It was as if he had finally grasped a lifeline, or perhaps found a reason to convince himself. The sound of rain and his voice fell at the same time. I'll listen to you. I'll go get treatment tomorrow, okay? I responded to him in my heart. Brandon, you must not let me down. Do it for you and for me. That night, Brandon sent a message to Simon. He came early the next morning. Simon leaned against the doorframe of the room and said lazily, "All right, I thought you were so stubborn that I'd have to put in some effort. I didn't expect you to come around in just a few days." Brandon didn't say anything and continued packing his things on his own. Simon showed no sign of being annoyed by the disregard and kept talking to himself. Shut up. Brandon shot him an annoyed glare. Simon walked over with a smile and gave him a push. I can walk by myself. Simon didn't stop his actions. After arguing for a few words, they finally remembered me. What should we do with this kitten? Brandon turned to look at me. Struggling for a few seconds, find someone to come and feed it every day. Simon was a bit surprised. Not taking it with you. He shook his head and reached out to touch me. Wait for me at home. Just like before, I nuzzled against his palm. Simon didn't ask anyone else but fed me himself. Every time he came, he was either bad-mouthing Brandon or talking about his loving daily life with his wife. Yet he never mentioned a word about Brandon's treatment progress. The system, seeing my concern, offered a live broadcast. I thought for a few seconds and refused. He always has a reason for not wanting me to see it. Simon came for a week straight, and every time he came, he would pick up his phone and take pictures of me. I never knew why until he finally couldn't take it anymore and pointed at his phone to complain to me. You tell me, is this any way to treat someone? I sacrificed time with my wife to help him feed his cat, and this is how he treats me. On the phone screen is a chat log between the two of them. Monday, Brandon, check on the cat. Simon, image. Tuesday, Brandon, look at the cat. Simon, image. Wednesday, Brandon, look at the cat. Simon, image. Thursday, Brandon, look at the cat. Simon, I said that's enough. Can't you even say thank you? Brandon, thank you. Look at the cat. Simon, image. Friday, Brandon, thanks. Check out the cat. Simon, do I look like a cat? I found it amusing and was about to scroll down when suddenly a video call popped up. I instinctively answered the call. Brandon's voice came through next. Simon, where's the cat? Show me. Halfway through his words, he saw me with my face filling the screen, right up against the camera. The corner of his mouth lifted. It's only been a few days, and you already know how to use a smartphone. Using a smartphone is nothing. I can even do calculus. It's just that my current skin is limiting me. I called out to him a few times. What else did he want to say to me? Simon moved the camera away. You see, your cat is doing well, better than I am. Brandon didn't look back and whispered, thanks. After saying that, both of them felt a little awkward. Simon turned the camera back toward me. Brandon glanced at the screen and noticed something was off. Simon, why are you only giving it such a small bowl? Simon looked at my bowl, a bit puzzled. Isn't this its normal portion? What's a normal appetite? She used to eat several times this amount. Several times. Simon sounded as if he was listening to a madman. That cat must have a strong constitution to not have been overfed to death. It's been so long, and finally someone is speaking up for me. Brandon began to doubt himself. Really, did I overfeed it before? More than just overfeeding, it was clearly feeding it to death. The nurse's voice came through the phone, so Brandon had to quickly end the video call. Before hanging up, he said to me again, "Wait for me to come back." I obediently waved to him. Simon was amused. "You're quite clever, knowing how to say goodbye to people. Otherwise, I might just sneak you back home while Brandon is away." Politely declined. "Thanks, I'm tired of hearing his love-struck talk every day. I don't want to watch him show off his affection in person." The day Brandon came home was a sunny day. Sunlight poured onto the potted plants he had bought earlier. Reflecting glimmers of light, I hadn't slept well all night, forcing my eyelids open as I stared at the door. I don't know how long it had been, but I finally heard the sound of the door opening. I quickly ran toward the door. Brandon was being slightly supported by Simon. He was still holding a cane with one hand. It was the first time I had seen him stand up. It was the first time I truly felt the reality of his 6'1" height. Before, when he was in a wheelchair, I barely had to look up to see him. Now, standing right in front of me, it's even a bit difficult to look up at him. Brandon and I locked eyes for a few seconds, then he slowly crouched down and opened his arms to me. I threw myself into his arms and excitedly called out several times, "Welcome home," I said to him in my heart. Brandon told me many interesting stories about the hospital. "There's a cat in the hospital, just like your old personality. It hides from people and is very timid. You'd probably like it if you saw it." He kept chattering on and on without stopping. It completely dampened my joy. Is he going to treat his leg or his throat? How come his leg is better, and he's also talking more? I struggled to break free from his embrace, but he held me even tighter. Brandon turned on his phone's front camera and took a picture of the two of us. This is our first photo together. If nothing unexpected happens, it should also be the last one. He posted this photo on his social media, with the caption, "Evil silver gradient, full of flaws, not for sale, just to make you jealous." Not long after, Simon commented below. It was very straightforward and to the point. "Give me the cat." Brandon ignored him. Everything was moving in the direction I had hoped for. Brandon is recovering well and gradually no longer needs to rely on crutches. The day he stood up like a normal person, I clearly understood that it was time to go back. The system popped up just as I was thinking about how to say goodbye. Our meeting was quite rushed, so I want a more formal conclusion. The system is somewhat concerned. What if he attempts suicide again after you go back? Then my efforts would have been in vain. That being said, I clearly know Brandon wouldn't. People who have climbed out of the lowest points have stronger resilience than the average person. On the day of departure, Brandon went for one last checkup. The system granted me special privileges and turned me back into a human. I found paper and a pen from the study and left a letter for Brandon. Then I glanced at the kitten in the cat bed and walked out. Pushing the door open, the elevator reached the first floor and slowly opened. Brandon and I locked eyes. He glanced at me and stepped into the elevator. I passed by him and caught a glimpse of his phone wallpaper. It was that photo of the two of us. The elevator door slowly closed. We say goodbye from now on. It was like dreaming of becoming a normal person. When I woke up, I looked up to see the familiar hospital ceiling. The table was filled with lilies. All of these were given to me by friends and relatives who came to visit me. Even the flowers in the white-filled hospital room are white. Being in such a place, I often have the illusion that I have already died and am lying in a crystal coffin. The door of the hospital room was slowly pushed open. "It's been so long since I last saw you." Mom seems to have a few more white hairs on her head. "Jenny, you're awake. Would you like something to eat?" I used to hate it the most when Mom spoke to me in such a cautious tone. It felt like a constant reminder that I was disabled. But at this moment, I look at her. Her eyes are slightly red. And she's a bit choked up. "Mom, I want to treat my leg." Mom looked up in disbelief, tears uncontrollably falling. The whole person is a bit incoherent. Okay, we'll treat it." The process of treating the leg was very painful. I finally understand why Brandon didn't let me go with him back then, because it was truly embarrassing. Every time I do rehabilitation, I end up falling uncontrollably in various positions, then I get helped back up, and then I fall again. It works very slowly. I've wanted to give up many times, but I always think of Brandon. He was just like me back then, struggling through every movement and every day. I can too. I watch the trees outside the window go from lush and vibrant to gradually turning yellow. When autumn arrives, it seems as if everything becomes bleak. But I stood up. In the lifeless autumn, I grew flesh and blood again. After the final treatment, I sat in a chair, staring blankly out the window. Countless memories, chewed over and over, flashed through my mind. I shook my head with a smile. One should not be too greedy, I warned myself in my heart. I packed my things and turned around, my heart racing ahead of me. Dreams seemed to intertwine with reality. Brandon was wearing a black coat, holding a bouquet of roses in one hand and a cat in the other, smiling at me from a distance. He stood still without moving. I walked toward him step by step in disbelief, until I stood by his side. I finally believe this is not a dream, Brandon. He opened his arms to me. Long time no see, Jenny. I threw myself into his arms, rubbing my head against him just like I had done many times before. I don't know how long we hugged before I looked up at him and asked, "How did you get here?" Brandon handed me the rose and explained, "The system that's bound to you used its own points to bring me here." I took the flower and petted the cat. "How have you been?" Brandon was silent for a few seconds. "Not well, ever since I saw the letter you left." Throughout this year of rehabilitation, no matter how painful or difficult it was, I never cried, but now my tears are uncontrollably welling up in my eyes. I'm not doing too well either. Brandon raised his hand and wiped my tears with his fingertips. "Don't cry. I came to you this time to make you take responsibility for me. I don't know anyone here, so I'm sticking with you." Holding the flowers, I interlocked my fingers with his. "Sticking with you for a lifetime would be the best." Two beating hearts drew close, and we from different worlds were destined to meet again. Extra, Jenny's letter. Brandon, hello, my name is Jenny. You might not believe it, but I am the cat from your home. You don't believe it now, but you will soon. After all, once I left, it must have reverted to its timid self. It's hard for me to explain everything that happened. Simply put, I was sent by fate to save you, and to save myself as well. It seems the effect is quite good now. So it's time for me to say goodbye to you. You haven't given that little cat a name yet. I feel a bit guilty for occupying its body for so long. If possible, I hope it can be called Happy. Life is indeed difficult and full of imperfections. Being happy is enough to bring peace to the heart. I really need to say this. Cats really don't need to eat that much. I am a person, but Happy is a cat. Don't feed it so much anymore. And all those sleeping pills in the cabinet, pack them up and throw them away. After I leave, you won't be desperate, will you? I don't think I'm that important to you, but Brandon, you mean a lot to me. If one day you can come to see me, be sure to bring Happy. Bring another handful of roses. I love its fiery red, as brilliant as life itself. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see, waking up with a hangover. Head pounding and mind foggy, just about to rub my head to ease the pain, only to realize, I don't have hands anymore. A huge exclamation mark stood upright above my head. Looking down, a snake's tail. The snake's tail was thick and golden, coiled like a mosquito-repellent incense. It inexplicably reminded you of something. Terrified, I wanted to scream, but it came out as a hiss. I looked up at the sky, on the verge of tears. I was thinking, this must be a dream, otherwise it just doesn't make any sense. I'm a real, flesh and blood human. How could I have turned into a snake? Flicking my forked tongue, I curled myself up in a defeated manner and hid in the bushes. I hypnotized myself. Sleep, sleep, wake up, and with another blink of my eyes, I'll be that overworked office drone again. Wah 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 wah. I still can't control my forked tongue very well, occasionally making hiss 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 sounds in my mouth. I've gone from being utterly creeped out by this sound at first to now being completely unfazed by it. I silently thought to myself, who is it, so unlucky? It's me, woo woo. I stayed in the bushes for half a day, unwilling to come out. The main issue is I simply don't know how to control my own body. I've transformed from a four-legged creature into a long snake. The species gap is just too vast. The heavens are really playing a huge joke on me, though my stomach is growling with hunger. I remain absolutely motionless. I thought recklessly, let me starve to death. Anyway, this isn't real, because I had turned into a snake. My sensitivity to light had greatly increased. I felt as if there was an especially warm spot outside the bushes. I poked my head out and saw a white-fleeced sheep. It was drinking by the stream. The sheep has clearly been taking good care of itself. It looks so plump. I stared so intently that my slit pupils nearly turned round. My mind involuntarily conjured up the delicious taste of mutton. I'm really hungry, and it's been a long time since I had hot pot lamb, but the next second, the white-haired lamb was gone. Puzzled, I extended more of my snake body to look around. A black snake, thicker than me, came into view. Look at its snake belly. The shape of a white-wooled sheep is unmistakably clear. Do snakes eat snakes? I stood there dumbfounded, having lived in human society for 20 years. How could one possibly master the use of a snake's body so effortlessly all at once? The next second, the black snake turned its gaze toward me. Its eyes were sharp, brimming with a murderous intent. My heart skipped a beat, and I dared not move a muscle. Then, it opened its gaping maw. I thought it was going to swallow me too, so I was about to run away quickly, but then it made a hiss 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 sound. To my surprise, I actually understood it. What a beautiful female snake, I love it. Will you be my wife? My snake-like pupils instantly dilated in disbelief. Turns out it wasn't lusting after my body. It was lusting after my body. Good heavens, I've endured harassment from creepy men before, but never did I expect to be harassed by a snake today. LMAO, this world is truly surreal. I didn't dare stop for a second, swiftly twisting my serpent tail as I tried to flee. Unfortunately, the escape attempt failed. The giant snake thrust its head forward, completely blocking my path to freedom. The black snake's tail had already encircled me. It opened its mouth towards me again. From this angle, I could see clearly and unmistakably the two venomous fangs of the black snake, gleaming coldly. Before it could make a sound, my eyes rolled back, and I fainted, in a daze. I felt something coiling around me, tight and unyielding, loop after loop. I never thought I'd wake up again, nor did I imagine that upon waking, I'd still be a snake. I lay on a pile of golden hay. This pile of hay looked big enough to accommodate over a dozen snakes my size. Where is this? My dizzy head spun even more. What the hell? Did that snake really take a fancy to me? How can a person, at the very least, not be this unlucky? Exploited by a heartless boss, crushed by a merciless life. Now inexplicably transported to another world and turned into a snake, and now I have to be a snake's wife. This damn, unbearable, injustice. I looked around, the giant snake wasn't there. Looking around again, only the spot beneath me was covered with grass. The other areas were either scattered rocks, moss, or a mix of both. Now's the time to run, quickly. Then I began struggling with this newly acquired serpent body. I clumsily wriggled my golden snake waist. Now I deeply regret not practicing control over this body earlier. It's really not easy to use at all. But does this count as experiencing the joy of a svelte waist? I found joy in my suffering. Finally, after bumping into scattered rocks once, twice, 3 times, I stumbled my way to the cave entrance. But when I panted and gasped my way to the cave entrance, the path ahead seemed to darken. Puzzled, I raised my head, and then died. The black snake returned. It's cold. Gleaming serpent eyes staring unblinkingly at me. Heaven wants to destroy me, I roared inwardly, yet my body dared not move a muscle. As still as a monk in deep meditation, I steeled myself and met the black snake's sinister gaze. At that moment, the black snake opened its maw, and all I saw were its fangs. My mind went blank. Today was the day I would die. I slightly closed my eyes, bracing for the excruciating pain of venom being injected by those fangs, but after waiting for a long time, nothing happened. I cautiously opened my eyes, and the black snake was still tilting its head to look at me, its obsidian-like pupils shimmering with a strange light. The black snake hissed. In my mind, it automatically translated into human language. Wife, 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 I love you. My wife actually came to pick me up on purpose. My wife must love me too, right? Why isn't my wife saying anything? As I spoke, I actually saw confusion and grievance in its serpentine eyes. Its enormous snake head swayed closer to me, and I instinctively leaned back. Every inch of me was resisting. The black snake hissed, "Wifey, wifey, wifey, are you scared of me, wifey?" The black serpent's tail coiled around me. I struggled in vain. The more I resisted, the tighter the black snake constricted. The black snake hissed, "Are you playing with me, my dear, or are you testing the strength of my tail? You can rest assured, my dear, I'm the most powerful snake. I'm really good at hunting. I definitely won't let you or the babies go hungry. As for mating, although I haven't tried it yet, I'm sure I can make you feel good. Not only that, but it also flicks its tongue out from time to time, and its tongue has brushed against me several times, a very subtle touch, yet carrying the innate coolness of a snake, sent shivers down my entire scaled body, although this snake didn't eat me. The fact that it considers me its mate doesn't seem like particularly good news either. The black serpent remained oblivious to the distress in my heart. The black snake continued hissing incessantly. What a pity, wifey really can't speak. Wifey's parents raised you so poorly, so angry. Could it be that they disliked wifey's snake body being too small, so they just abandoned you and then abused you? I want to raise my wife to be plump and fair. It's mealtime, gotta feed my wife. Darling, I'm about to shed my skin. After shedding, I'll enter the mating season, so during this time, I must fatten you up properly, otherwise you won't be able to handle it. I was utterly shocked. Mating season, oh my god, this joke isn't funny at all. The black snake loosened its tail from around me, its serpentine body swaying flexibly as it effortlessly slithered out of the cave. In no time, it returned, this time with a bloodied goat carcass clamped in its jaws. I thought I would feel disgusted, but the truth was, my mouth watered, the moment my serpentine eyes caught sight of the goat. They were filled with nothing but hunger. The black snake gently placed the goat on the ground before me, then nudged its head toward me with a hiss. Wife, eat quickly. The meat is very fresh and delicious. This one was specially picked for you. A strong adult goat from the herd, unable to resist the bloody scent. I bit the goat's neck at an unimaginable speed, only to get a mouthful of fur. To be honest, I was stunned, and the excited black snake in front of me was also stunned. The black snake started hissing again. Does my wife not know how to eat it? Wife, you just need to swallow it whole. We're not humans. We don't need to chew. Wife, your parents truly deserve 1,000 deaths. At home, were you only able to eat the scraps left by other snakes? You've never eaten a whole prey, so you don't know how to, do you? Is that it? Aw. My poor wife. Fine then, you've already said all the good and bad things there are to say. I really have no idea how the original owner's life was before. I only know that I'm not feeling well right now. I feel sick to my stomach, but seeing such a large prey that my tiny mouth has to swallow whole fills me with fear. I don't dare. The food is already laid out before me, yet I can't eat it. I hissed hiss, don't mind me. I plan to starve myself to death. This was the first sentence I spoke to the black snake. The black snake was shocked, so the black snake hissed, my wife's voice is so beautiful. Wait, wife, you can talk. Watching the black snake's shocked expression, I nodded in a very human-like manner. Does my wife think she can't swallow it? I nodded human-like again. Don't worry. Wife, snakes have special mechanisms in their mouths. Try it, you definitely can. If not, I'll tear it into smaller pieces. I won't let you go hungry anyway. Thus, encouraged by the black snake, I shakily launched a second attack on the goat. I forcefully suppressed my human discomfort, struggling to open my mouth and swallow half of it. However, the psychological urge to vomit surged violently, and before I could react, I spat out that half of the goat. The regurgitated goat was still coated in a transparent fluid, making it look particularly eerie. My heart completely sank, so I hissed, SSSSSSS, forget it, I don't want to eat, let me go, find another snake to be your wife. I admit, the black snake before me is quite a looker. What a brilliantly colorful black it is, and so huge too. That muscular tail coiling around its prey must look incredibly dashing. The black snake hissed, sounding a bit anxious this time. Wife, what are you saying? Am I black? That kind of snake? Don't be afraid, wife. I'll just tear the goat into smaller pieces, and it'll be fine, isn't it? Why are you so stubborn? I don't even want to be a burden, and you're quite fond of it. I can't be bothered to hiss anymore. Let it be. I coiled my body into a spiral like mosquito incense, burying myself in the grass. Black was diligently tearing apart the mountain goat. The scent of blood filled the entire cave. It smelled so good, it was practically luring my soul away. Black moved swiftly, tearing the goat as large as a small hill into many small pieces in an instant. The black snake hissed, darling, it's ready to eat now. I ignored it, burying myself even deeper instead, letting the dry grass press down on me. The black snake, seeing that I was ignoring him, began to grow restless, his anxious hissing sounds continuously reaching my ears. Wifey, how about I feed you? Wifey, how can you not eat anything? It's all my fault for not meeting you sooner. otherwise I would have already fattened you up nice and plump. Should I go find those two stinky snakes for revenge, I'll strangle them to death. Wifey, pay attention to me. If you don't want to talk to me, that's fine, but at least eat something. Okay, to be honest, I was somewhat moved. Back when I was human, no one ever cared for me this much. Now I'm actually being doted on by a black snake. I know this isn't an ordinary place. Judging by the things the black snake said and his massive size, this is either prehistoric times or some fantasy realm. I sighed. Since I'm already here, might as well accept it. It's not like I can actually starve to death, right? After all, I had eaten and drunk my fill before I transmigrated, so there's no reason I should starve to death now. The black snake was so anxious it kept circling around, its tail nearly tying itself in knots. The black snake hissed repeatedly, wife. I hissed, stop calling, I'm coming out now. The black snake immediately shut up and even pushed a small piece of meat toward me, arching its body. Eat, dear. I glanced at it, then grabbed the meat with my mouth and swallowed it. Before long, the food on the ground had vanished, replaced by the roundness of my belly. The black snake was delighted, hissing and praising, my wife is amazing, me, with my lifeless snake eyes. I must be quite a sight for you, since that first feeding. The black snake and I became familiar with each other. Hearing it hiss, wife, no longer elicits any strange reactions from me, mainly because it's too good at taking care of me. When going out to hunt, it insists on bringing me along. It placed me on its massive serpentine body, undulating as it moved, allowing me to feel the pull of its muscles. From time to time, it would pause to rest, using the tip of its tail to nudge me gently. It even twirled my tail tip in circles, entwining them together. At first, I was quite reluctant, finding it rather strange, but I couldn't resist it, and it was indeed comfortable, so I just let it be. When passing by the stream, I could see our reflections on the water, one large, one small, one black, one yellow, strangely harmonious. Moreover, during hunts, it sometimes let me experience the thrill of constricting prey. All the while, it kept hissing incessantly. Wifey is so amazing, that's right, put more strength into it. The prey isn't dead yet, don't slack off, wifey, the emotional support is truly more than enough. Amidst its cheers and applause, the prey I caught grew larger and larger, and I could now swallow the entire prey whole. My 8-meter-long snake body hasn't changed much. Black was even worried about this for several days. It hissed hiss. Wifey, why aren't you growing anymore? So tiny. What if you can't handle my mating season later? I hissed. Then how about you pick another one? It's over 10 meters long, while I'm only 8 meters. Clearly not the same species. No idea why it took a liking to me. Cross-species relationships are a bad idea. I consider myself capable of being its friend, but not its partner. Good, I haven't forgotten the fact that I'm human. I feel somewhat relieved. Upon hearing this, black snake-like pupils narrowed even further. Hissing sounds came through. Is my wife joking? I clearly felt the air grow noticeably colder, shivering. Wow, this snake really has the makings of a domineering CEO. As the saying goes, when a domineering CEO gets angry, the first thing to suffer is the air. It continued hissing, its tone clearly displeased. No, I've decided on you. I liked you the moment I saw you. At worst, I'll just skip the mating season. After speaking, it left the cave angrily. Wife, you rest, I'll go hunting. Watching its retreating figure, I was utterly shocked. Could it be that I've really transmigrated into some fantasy world? A snake can actually say something like, I'd rather skip the mating season, showing such unwavering loyalty. A snake practicing pure love. I was lost in thought, idly curling and uncurling the dry grass with the tip of my tail, over and over again. Sigh, my charm is just too overwhelming. What can I do? Could it be that I've transmigrated into some novel? Only characters in novels are so obsessed with love and romance, right? Every one of them is a pure love warrior. I'm a bit overwhelmed. The main issue is, I've read so many novels, and I skipped chapters in a lot of them. Even if I've read it, I wouldn't know which one it is. How vexing. The black snake's molting period came without warning. Black serpentine eyes were covered with a thin membrane. Its scales had dried out, and their color had actually turned slightly pale. Far less black than before. The black snake hissed, SSSSS, wife. I'm going to shed my skin in a few days. I hiss, then shed it. The black snake hisses, wife, you're so cold. There was a pile of dry branches in the cave. brought in by the black snake as preparation for his own shedding. To be honest, I was a bit worried and also curious. I had never experienced watching a snake shed its skin up close before. I hissed softly, "Black, does it hurt when you shed your skin?" The black snake hissed, its voice carrying a hint of surprise. "Wife, don't you know what shedding skin feels like?" Good heavens. Now, as a cold-blooded creature, I actually broke out in a cold sweat from its words. I hissed, though passionately. It revealed a bit of bluster masking weakness, commonly known as a guilty conscience. "Of course I know. I care about you." The black snake was indeed fooled by me, his excited hisses rising and falling in waves. "Thanks for your concern, dear, but I don't feel pain. I'm the strongest snake around." The day it shed its skin truly opened my eyes. The transparent skin started peeling from its head as it slowly moved through the pile of dry branches. Using the friction between its body and the branches, it gradually pulled off its old skin. The movement was slow, yet incredibly smooth. Coiled in my own serpentine form, I stretched my neck to watch it molt. So healing, the newly shed areas revealed scales that were particularly glossy and smooth, a deep black so lustrous it looked like they'd been polished with the finest wax. With its movements, the shed skin had already reached the very tip of its tail. I stared intently at its tail, mentally cheering it on. "Just this last bit, you can do it." Although the movements were smooth, due to its enormous size, shedding its skin completely still took considerable effort. After finishing the shedding process, it rested for a while in the same spot. As for me, my curiosity got the better of me, and I wriggled my serpentine body toward it. Once I got close, I extended the tip of my tail to lightly touch the tip of its tail, hissing softly, "How are you? Feeling okay?" It stiffened for a moment, turned its head, and its eyes seemed brighter than before shedding. The black snake hissed, "Wifey, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable. Can I coil around you?" "I think it's fine, because I'm bewitched by beauty." The black snake looks even more attractive after shedding its skin, I hissed. "Okay." Upon hearing this, the black snake acted like a dog getting a bone or a person finding treasure, swiftly coiling me beneath its serpentine body. Who would understand? I didn't even touch a single dry branch. My belly pressed against his belly, my back still resting against its belly, a very familiar position, still only leaving me enough space to breathe. The black snake nuzzled its head against mine, its tongue flickering out occasionally to brush against the corner of my mouth. A second before I could hiss, it hissed first, "Wifey, wifey, you can drape the skin I shed over yourself. I was very careful just now. There are no tears in that skin, wife. Didn't you dislike slithering through those rotting leaves? Wearing this snakeskin will keep you from getting dirty." I felt a bit touched. This black snake is really quite considerate, I hissed. "Thank you," the black snake hissed. "No need to thank me, wifey, I really adore you so much." Ever since the black snake shed its skin, it kept coiling around the tip of my tail when I wasn't paying attention, whether I was sleeping or eating. That day, just like our usual routine, we went hunting together, but it was far more aggressive than usual. Instead of swallowing its prey whole, it tore them into pieces, which ended up benefiting me, stuffing my belly until it was round and full. I thought it was just in a bad mood, so I didn't think much of it. Then, when we were heading back home after eating and drinking our fill, we encountered an uninvited guest. Similarly, it was a snake over 10 meters long, but this one was female, because the hissing sound it made translated into a female voice in my head. Black became even more visibly agitated the moment that female snake appeared. In that split second, a sudden realization flashed through my mind. What were the signs of a snake's mating season again? Agitation. Female snakes emit a distinctive scent to attract males for mating. This, I hissed at the black snake coiled around me on its back. "Look, that's your kind. It's also in heat right now. Why don't you give it a try?" The black snake's obsidian-like pupils seemed to flash with a hint of red light upon hearing my words. It hissed repeatedly, unable to contain its anger. "Wife, what did you say? You're making me very angry." Looking into his eyes, I felt somewhat guilty. From his perspective, I truly wasn't human. This snake treated me with good food and drink, even taught me how to hunt. Not just giving me fish but also teaching me how to fish. What a rare and wonderful snake, I hissed weakly, lacking confidence. "Black, I'm doing this for your own good. It seems more suitable for you." The black snake's aura grew even colder. I was about to persuade it further, but before I could utter more than a single hiss, Black's tail tip slipped into my mouth. Fortunately, I didn't have a snake's instincts to bite down immediately. Otherwise, I would have been the only snake returning home today. The black snake was thick and robust. Its pointed tail tip filling my mouth completely, leaving me unable to make a sound. As we passed the female snake, that strange scent grew even more intense. The black snake's muscles tensed even more tightly. By this point, its pointed tail tip had already been pulled out of my mouth. The female snake seemed unable to restrain her desire and wanted to approach the black snake, but she was frightened away by the black snake's cold gaze and venomous fangs. After watching us for a while, the female snake reluctantly slithered away. I was still staring blankly at the departing figure of the female snake when I suddenly realized the black snake had tightened its grip around me. When we reached the cave, the black snake placed me on the dry grass. It stared at me with wide eyes, making me feel extremely guilty. I hissed softly, "WH, what's wrong?" It hissed angrily, "You can only be my wife, you can't push me to someone else." After saying that, it didn't even give me a chance to speak and stormed out of the cave in a huff. I sighed softly. Because of the mating season, the black snake left early and returned late, and I felt too embarrassed to ask. I could only pray in my heart that it would be more flexible and take care of things outside. We haven't spoken for several days now. I thought I would spend the entire long mating season like this, but no one expected the sudden change to come so quickly. This morning, the black snake and I went hunting together. We walked in silence the whole way. It no longer carried me on its back, but instead swam ahead on its own. However, I noticed it deliberately pressed down some sharp weeds and swept small stones aside with its tail. I was deeply moved. The snake's skin was tough enough that these things couldn't hurt me, yet it still went through the trouble of doing them. I tried to talk to it, hissing, "Hi, Black, the weather is so nice today, we'll definitely eat our fill again." The black snake didn't respond, just kept walking silently. I don't feel embarrassed either and continue hissing, "Black, what do you think we can eat today? The sika deer last time was especially delicious. The meat was silky and smooth." The black snake still doesn't reply to me, so I keep talking. Just as I was about to tell it my true origins, an unexpected change occurred. A male snake, also in heat, arrived. It was dark green in color, with a few patches of mud carelessly stuck to its body. The bloodstains from its last meal hadn't been cleaned off, and it even smelled a bit foul. The black snake immediately coiled around me the moment the green snake appeared, firmly shielding me behind it. The green snake appeared older than Black, its body more robust than Black's. I sensed danger and trembled behind Black's back. Two strong snakes, both in their mating season, coldly stared at each other, attempting to intimidate and drive the other away with their presence. The green snake was the first to lose patience. "Hiss hiss hiss, brother, the female next to you hasn't mated with you yet, right? Females have high standards for their partners. She probably doesn't think much of you. Why not give her to me? I'll definitely tame her, make her obedient and submissive. When the time comes and she lays a clutch of eggs, it'll be a great contribution to our clan." The tone was arrogant and overbearing, making my heart sink. I glanced at Black. Its eyes filled with ferocity. The black snake coiled its tail around me and gently placed me on a clump of weeds nearby. Its tail tip lightly tapped me, and I knew this gesture was meant to soothe me. Then, it suddenly lunged forward and began biting the green snake fiercely. Black didn't hold back, instead fiercely coiling around the green snake's body. The green snake didn't retreat either, hissing coldly, "Kid, you just reached adulthood this year, didn't you? I advise you not to be stubborn, or else I'll eat you and then take over that female snake." The two snakes writhed rapidly, flattening a large patch of weeds on the ground. Black was giving it his all, but I could tell he was about to reach his limit. Black was tightly coiled by the larger green snake. The green snake was in the prime of its life, while Black was still just a young adult. What should I do? The black snake has been very kind to me. I can't be ungrateful. I took a deep breath and decided to join the fight. In a spot where the green snake couldn't see, I swiftly bit down on its body. As for where it is, I don't know either. The green snake smelled terrible, completely different from the fresh grassy scent of Black, but I didn't let go, instead injecting all my venom into the green snake's body. When Black saw me coming, a flicker of worry flashed in its eyes first. Then it tightened its grip on the green snake even more to prevent it from breaking free and throwing me off. Fortunately, my venom worked well, and the green snake's struggles grew weaker until it finally stopped moving. Black also released it, exhausted, and moved aside. I wanted to take a look at it, but it hissed at me, "Wait, my love, I smell terrible right now. I listened, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. At a time like this, it was still concerned about cleanliness, but I didn't insist on getting closer to it. Once it had rested, we went to the stream to wash up. Black was accustomed to cleaning itself with water plants. The serpent's body coiled around the water plants, rubbing against them repeatedly until it was clean. I imitated it and cleaned my teeth as well. On the way back, the black snake coiled around me again just like before, carrying me on its back. Black hissed softly, "I'm sorry, my dear. It's my fault for not taking good care of you. I scared you just now, wife. Even if you had just left, I would have understood. And I wouldn't want you to get hurt either, but I'm really happy you didn't abandon me, wife." I hissed softly. "I'm also glad we're both safe." The black snake affectionately touched the tip of its tail to the tip of my tail. I remembered something. Hiss hiss hiss. "My name is Cecilia." Black hiss hiss hiss. "Wow, my wife's name is so beautiful, just as pretty as you are." I think he's talking nonsense. That female snake who was courting him was clearly more attractive. After that incident, my relationship with Black returned to how it was at the beginning. However, Black's mating season seemed to vanish suddenly, and as for me, I didn't even have one to begin with. I don't know why, but it seems like the time when the world appears blurry to me is getting longer, and the range is also expanding. Could it be nearsightedness? My tiny snake brain came up with an absurd answer. The black snake hissed, "Wife, I'm home." The usual greeting, but with a noisy background sound. I hissed, "Black. Did you hear something?" The black snake hissed, "No, honey, did you hear wrong?" Black's voice grew fainter in my ears, while another sound became increasingly clear. "Doctor, when will my daughter wake up?" Fortunately, the alcohol intake wasn't excessive, just mild poisoning. "Please be patient, family, she should regain consciousness soon." I heard my mother's trembling voice, filled with lingering fear. If mild poisoning is already like this, wouldn't severe poisoning be disastrous? The doctor was also happy to educate my mother. Moderate alcohol poisoning is already very harmful, causing coma and significant damage to multiple organs. As parents, you should also check in on your child's life from time to time. Young people today face a lot of pressure, and alcohol has become commonplace in their lives, but they still shouldn't take their health lightly. My mother kept nodding in agreement. "Thank you, doctor." "All right then, that's settled. You just take good care of your daughter. Let me walk you out." "Doctor, no need, let's leave it at that." The voices grew fainter. I noticed the black snake and that world growing increasingly blurry, and I couldn't help but call out reluctantly, "Black." The last thing I saw was Black swimming toward me. I struggled to keep my eyelids open, trying hard to open my eyes. When I finally managed to open them, what greeted me was a snow-white ceiling. My mom happened to come in. "Cecilia, you're finally awake. How are you? Are you still feeling unwell?" I shook my head mechanically. "Mom." As soon as I spoke, I realized my voice was hoarse, as if scraped by a razor blade. "Here, good girl Cecilia, drink some water." I gulped down an entire glass of water from my mom's hand before feeling my throat improve slightly. "Cecilia, I don't even know what to say to you. Working hard shouldn't cost you your life. Drinking at parties like it's water. Are you trying to kill yourself? If you're gone, how am I supposed to live alone? I come from a single-parent family. It's just me and my mom." I promised my mom that this kind of thing would never happen again, and only then did she give me a smile. My mom kept chattering beside me, but my mind was elsewhere. I was thinking about Black. No wonder, Black was so perfect. It turned out to be just a dream. I let out a bitter laugh. Outside the hospital window, the sky remained a clear blue, yet my mind was filled with the image of that snake, Black. But why would I dream of a snake? I couldn't figure it out. I hadn't had much contact with snakes. After this hospitalization, I suddenly felt the need to take a break. So I cashed in all the vacation days I had saved up. The manager who approved my application looked as if he had seen an alien, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. I rubbed my temples and said, "Stop staring and just sign it already." Rare sight, workaholic Miss Cecilia actually taking a vacation. What's going on here? With a pair of dead fish eyes and a lifeless expression, I weakly said, "Alcohol poisoning, afraid of dying." Upon hearing this, the manager didn't hesitate and quickly signed his name. "Take it quickly, get some good rest. When will work ever be finished?" I nodded, took the note, and got ready to pack up for my vacation. As I stepped out of the company's main entrance, I suddenly caught a faint whiff of grass, a very familiar scent. Where had I smelled it before? Black? I couldn't believe it as I searched for the source of the scent. Could it be that Black, like me, had turned into a snake in that world while sleeping? But he's actually human. Reason told me I must have read too many novels and developed delusions, yet, deep down, I couldn't help but hope this speculation was true. If Black were really human, then I could like him without any hesitation. Following the scent, I spotted a man in a white shirt and black trousers reading a book on a public bench. I slowly approached him, feeling somewhat like a human trafficker, and instinctively straightened my posture, though there wasn't much to straighten. The closer I got, the stronger the grassy fragrance became, and it smelled quite pleasant. With a trembling voice, I said, "Hello, may I introduce myself? My name is Cecilia." I clearly saw his eyes light up. "Hello, my name is Bruce." My eyes darkened. Damn, it's not him. So why the hell did his eyes light up? I was about to say I'd mistaken him for someone else when he added, "Of course, you can also call me Black." My eyes lit up again. I couldn't wait to say, "You remember?" Bruce nodded. "I also remember calling you wife." I feel a bit shy. Bruce's smile is so gentle. I feel like I'm getting a little carried away. He then asked, "Can I keep calling you wife?" I froze for a moment, then my heart burst with joy. "Is this a confession?" I nodded immediately. No hesitation needed, just go for it. The timing of this vacation was perfect. Bruce and I went wild. My mom was so happy when she found out I had a boyfriend. It was like winning at mahjong non-stop, the first time she saw Bruce. She couldn't stop praising him. "This young man is really great, really great. He's just perfect for our Cecilia." I know my mom is also quietly worried. Her marriage is not going well, not happy. My dad is an irresponsible husband and father. What he brought to my mom and me is pain, especially for my mom. When I was a child, she struggled to make ends meet at the bottom of society, working hard to raise me. My childhood taught me that money is very important. I don't like working. I just like money. The sense of security that money provides cannot be replaced by anything else. However, Bruce's behavior gave my mom peace of mind. From the day we confirmed our relationship, Bruce laid all his cards on the table. He started his career with desserts and now owns 3 dessert shops. Not only that, in recent years, he has also ventured into the jade business. My family has a bit of a special ability, some talent for judging stones. When he said that, I understood. It must be something like X-ray vision, but only for stones. For humans, this is like having an incredible cheat code. I teased him, "So you just told me about this special ability of yours. What if I had ill intentions?" To my surprise, Bruce smiled and said, "You wouldn't. You're the kindest person I know." I raise an eyebrow. Although I don't think this is a trait I possess, I gladly accept it. After everything was made clear, Bruce transferred 2/3 of his assets to my name under the witness of my mother and his parents via video call. The remaining 1/3 belongs to Bruce on one condition: he must not harm me. In other words, almost all of his property is mine. I said, "Aren't you afraid I might be a scammer? What if I take your money and run?" He still shook his head. "You're not a scammer, you're my wife." I thought you were going to praise me for being kind again. Our wedding went smoothly and was quite low-key. I only invited 2 friends from the company. The manager who approved my leave was one of them. "You sly Cecilia, said you were taking a leave to rest, but you were actually getting married." I didn't expect it to be so sudden when I took that leave. "I have no choice but to wear this wedding dress," I said helplessly. "How about that, man?" I smiled sweetly. "Of course I can, otherwise, why would I have married?" Indeed. How could Miss Cecilia's taste ever be anything less than excellent? On my wedding day, I was happy. Not the kind of happiness that comes from receiving a lot of money, but a warmth-filled joy. Of course, on our wedding night, my experience of this warmth became even more intimate. Bruce kept breathing hot air by my ear. "Do you like it, honey?" Deep bass with a slight pant. "Damn, absolutely amazing." Women, they just have to enjoy these things. I admit, I'm addicted. The last glance fell upon 2 figurines on the nightstand. One black snake and one yellow snake. Beside it lay a swaying rose, its petals seemingly unable to bear the motion, about to fall. Side story: Bruce, my family is special. We can transform into snakes. After our destined one appears, we pull them into the virtual world we've created during their sleep. Only when the destined one also falls in love with the creator of the virtual world will the virtual world fade away. If the destined one does not develop affection for the creator, the virtual world will collapse through various global disasters. This wasn't my first time meeting Cecilia. When I was still a young snake, She saved me from the misfortune of being swallowed by a gecko. Back then, she was skinny, wearing shabby yet clean clothes, and the hands that held me were very soft. I always remember the scent on her. It was the fragrance of flowers, because Aunt Song grew flowers. Cecilia would go to help every day, and over time, the floral scent clung to her. My parents found me quickly and took me back home. On the day I transformed, I chose the shape-shifting potion with the scent of fresh grass, because I always remember the floral scent on Cecilia, the grass and flowers, a perfect match. When I pulled Cecilia into my virtual world, I had no memories of the real world. But the moment I first saw her, my heart belonged to her once again. I knew it was her, for this lifetime and beyond. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.